Hello and welcome to DroneXL Spotlight edition, where we interview commercial and commercial professional drone pilots who fly FPV drones, bigger drones, smaller drones, any kind of drone really. And we'll talk about it with them to see how they got started, what lessons they learned, and what made them successful. And today we're going to talk with somebody whose videos you might have seen. Most recently there was a video where he flew an FPV drone through a classic car mall, and the footage is pretty amazing. We're going to get into that. He's also flown with some famous skateboarders. Tony Hawk, one of the most famous skateboarders out there, I would imagine. And some other cool stuff. So without any further ado, Nick Lang, welcome to the show. How are you today?
Good, Hyatt. Thanks for having me, man. Yeah, I appreciate that. It's like, it's crazy when like I hear somebody say that. It's like, oh yeah, I was in Tony Hawk's office and I was able to hand him the FPV goggles and like we were just two guys having fun with the drone. It was like, it's crazy thinking about it, but yeah, thanks for having me, man.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Glad to have you on the show, and thank you for making time available. We're going to get into a bunch of stuff, I'm sure. But to start with, can you tell me how you got into drones, how long ago that was? Like, what was your first drone, and what got you excited about flying drones to begin with?
Yes, sure. So I was lucky enough to be, what's considered an early adopter, I guess. So it was around 2013, 14, when I actually had the opportunity to get a drone. And at that time, it was the Phantom 1. And it was through a show I was working on, Articulate with Jim Cotter on PBS here in Philadelphia. And the showrunner was like, "Hey man, like this is a new show. We gotta make something like that is going to be awesome for PBS to air, right?" So he's like, "We're going to pull out all the toys." And like we had a decent budget, so I was like, "Hey, look, I've been hearing about this thing called a drone. I know that it's going to, quote unquote, change the game. I know, that's like the most cliche thing you can say, but it really did." So he just said, he's like, "Oh yeah, I got a drone. It's at my house. I can't fly the thing." And my eyes like lit up because I've been thinking about drones for months before that. And I was like, "Hey, I'll definitely take this on and I'll learn how to do it. And I think it's something we should incorporate the show." So he brought the Phantom 1. It didn't have a gimbal. The Hero that was on it was like the Hero 1 or 2. And then I took it home. I did my research. It was a good way of getting your first drone too, because it wasn't my drone. So like I didn't go out there and just like put it up, in the sky and just start flying around. I really took the time to read about it, to learn about, at that time, all the flashing lights that meant, if you had enough satellites or like if it was going to return to home. And there was no OSD, there was no telemetry. So you were really just line of sighting this thing and hoping that the GoPro was recording. So with that, it took like, a few days to do my research. And then I finally brought it outside. And at the time I was living in an apartment. And I really just did a video circling around my apartment. And looking back on it, I was doing, moves that were, just rather parallax moves and stuff like that. And of course, I just had fun with throwing color effects on it. And I put it through Warp Stabilizer at the time. And then I brought it to the showrunner, and he's like, "This is awesome. Let's run with it." And we tried one shoot, and we realized that the quality was just not there with the GoPro 2. So he's like, "All right, research the options." And at that time, DSLR Pros, which is still around, they had the Kane Cinema Edition. And we were able to put it on the show's bill. And, it was, at the time, it was like a $6,000 setup for everything you needed. And what's funny is, at the time, it actually came with FPV goggles. And I was so, strict on, like, doing everything. And, like, I actually saw the goggles as something that I didn't even want to mess with. I was looking at the screen, looking at the drone the entire time.
Keep an eye on the bird.
Yeah. I wasn't even thinking of, like, FPV freestyle or anything at that time. And then, we used that for the show for the whole first season. And then we had the the Phantom 2 with the H3 gimbal, and then the Hero 4 with the fixed lens. So I had that for a while, and then I just got addicted to it. To be honest with you, I just loved what I was doing. He sent me on missions. It was just like, "Nick, go get every B-roll shot you can with this drone." So I was like, for a whole summer, I'm like, hell yeah! So I got a ton of experience in a short amount of time, and I fell in love with it, and to the point where I said, I need to do this more often. I need to do this as my career. So I just made the jump to start Nick Lang Media, and then from there, I invested in the Inspire 1, and then Inspire 2, and then Mavic 2 just as a side thing. And then about a year, actually, honestly, looking at the day today, about a year ago to this date, I started really putting out FPV content because I've been flying FPV drones since 2014 as well, because it was kind of the side hobby thing to do. I would have the Phantom for the commercial stuff that I was doing for the show. And then the Blade Nano QX was the first kind of micro-sized drone. Tiny Whoop wasn't even around yet. The Blade Inductrix wasn't even around yet. It was just a Blade Nano QX. And I float the goggles that I had. I would record little videos, and I told myself, I was like, someday they're going to make a camera that's small enough in HD quality to fit on this, and that is going to be awesome. And I can't wait till that happens, because I'm just going to do tours. I had the vision already in my mind of what I wanted to do with it, but the technology wasn't there. And I even have a Post-it note that's funny. It's on my kitchen wall. It's on my kitchen fridge, and it's almost like a memento, because it says basically my business plan for real estate tours.
Yeah.
That I wanted to do with the drone, but the technology wasn't there. And
to fly FPV drones through the house, around the house, and basically show people the property.
Yeah, I broke it down on a Post-it note, and it's dated. I think it's dated like 2 years ago from April. I know it's at least April.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's all laid out. And then of course that video that everyone saw with the it was like the Japanese school flying through the cherry blossoms into the Japanese school.
Yeah.
When I saw that video, well, actually, to backtrack, Robert McIntosh, who's a name that doesn't get mentioned a lot, but he's, of course, is the founder of RealSteady, and that guy has been putting out FPV content since 2010, and like, I'm talking about the fly-through stuff I'm doing now, kind of quality back then, and he's just a guy that, he was doing it just because he wanted to move the camera in that certain way, and I don't think the community was there. I don't think like everyone even knew what FPV was. But you go back to some of his videos, and dude, the dates on those videos are mind-blowing, because he's got real steady quality FPV work back in the day. So he put the video out at flying through Venice Beach and then going through the ring of the Multipath.
The exercise course there.
Yeah. I don't work out too much, so I don't know too much workout equipment. But so of course he did case that, and then a few years later, literally a few years later, we're now at the point where you can buy these much easier, and you can build them much easier, and you can buy them ready to fly, and size factor is what's so impressive. The size was so impressive.
Yeah, but I think it's a good point that you made there. I mean, it takes somebody who understands the technology and has the vision of the kind of footage that they want to create in order to see what is possible if you have the right technology. I think for the majority of other people, the normal people, let's say, who are just doing other stuff in their life, it takes those videos. For instance, I remember the one where you see the snowboarders jump and then they spin in the air, but then the FPV drone circles the snowboarder. So it's like, not only are you watching action, you're actually in the action yourself as you circle the subject. And I think it takes videos like that for people to understand, okay, so this is what's possible now with FPV drones. And for me, it was an eye-opener. And then, of course, you get all those different videos coming out. At what point do you think that both the drones and the video cameras became good enough to start using that footage in a professional way, basically?
So it's funny that I'm a producer. I've been a video producer for about 10 years now. So it's funny because I actually stayed away from the FPV stuff. I stayed away. I shouldn't say away from FPV, but I stayed away from putting a GoPro on an FPV quad. Or I fly a lot of wings too. Yeah. I love flying wings actually, probably more than drones. But I stayed away from it because it was a GoPro, and I'm like, I'm used to 4K quality on the ground. None of my clients want GoPro footage. I do interviews, I do documentaries, I do live events, I do all stuff with 4K cameras. So I looked at the GoPro as just kind of a consumer drone or consumer camera. But then again, once I saw somebody put it on a quad that was safe enough, like the Shendrone Squirt and Geyser, that's when I started thinking more about it. And then with the introduction of RealSteady, I was also using RealSteady before RealSteady Go, so I had access to that software. So my earlier videos was using that RealSteady original software that is a pain in the ass to work with. It's not even just time consuming. I mean, you have to have After Effects 2014, and I'm all pissed off at Adobe right now because I can't even use After Effects 14. I had it, but now it's not supported anymore with their updates. So once the GoPro, once I started seeing, like I said, that Japanese school video and then Robert McIntosh stuff, I said, all right, this is going to be a niche of my business. People think that you can just jump into FPV cinematography and you're working every day flying drones for Red Bull and these big clients every day. That's just not the reality unless you're at the level of someone that's doing that. Like there are some guys out there like Finky Blaster, Johnny FPV, but even those guys, if you ask them, I bet you it's not every single day. So I looked at it as a niche and I said, all right, I'm going to add this as an add-on. And of course, since I just enjoyed it and it's the best flying, the most fun flying I've ever had in my entire life, naturally I'm going to do it more and more and more. And then the creativity just comes out because I'm having a good time. And it's my niche that I feel confident enough to do stuff in a creative way. So I don't have to worry about, crashing, or I wouldn't say crashing, but I don't have to worry about stuff that would usually get me nervous. So even right now, the GoPro 8 is the highest quality that I can personally say that I have, but I know guys are putting GH5s on big heavy lifters, so that's my next progression, is getting something bigger that can hold, Blackmagic Pocket cinema camera 6K is almost a standard in some of the documentaries I work on. So that's kind of the next step. But on the micro scale, I have big hopes for the Insta-1R 1-inch. And then I know Sony has as an option out there, but currently I'm okay with the GoPro.
Yeah, but I mean, if you upgrade to more professional and larger cameras, of course it's a bigger size, bigger bulk, more weight that comes with it. I mean, at what point do you feel that you're starting to compromise the agility of FPV drones, where you can't make those nice swooping turns anymore because now you're dealing with so much more bulk and you lose some of the fastness of FPV drones?
Well, you lose the speed and you also lose the safety too. So anyone that works on a professional film set, they'll tell you that it's 100% all about safety. And anyone that doesn't tell you that isn't doing it correctly, because it's not just you're able to fly a camera. It's how are you flying that camera and whose lives are you putting at risk while you're in the air. So the heavier drones you get, obviously the more risk factor. But I tell you what, Andy Shen of Shen Drones, everyone knows him in the cinematic FPV category. He's creating, frames that are really, really defining how we're going to progress cinematography with FPVs. And he came out with a frame called the THICC, THICC, I think. He's got the best names. The Squirt, the Geyser, the THICC. It's just like, they're just hilarious. But so that frame, it looks actually, I mean, compared to it probably looks like this form factor of like a 7-inch quad, but it's still heavy. I mean, still a lot of momentum. So that's kind of where I've seen, if I were to get one, that would be it. But people also need to understand, if you're working on a set, they're not going to be asking you to do, many barrel rolls or power loops and stuff like that. Like, power loop will probably have a really cool niche for some productions, but majority of it, if you're doing high-speed stuff, it's going to be chasing cars and then, parallaxing around the cars. A lot of Johnny FPV stuff, when you're able to get that close and at that speed, right now, that's what directors are like, okay, I could do something with that, because it's all really about, like you said earlier, it's the content that's out there that the directors see and they say, all right, I want that for my production. Let me call up Nick Media. Oh, I didn't know you were using a GoPro. Can you use anything else? And then I have that conversation of, all right, maybe it's time to jump up to have something like the THICC that can hold a Blackmagic cinema camera.
Yeah, so then your camera capabilities are upgraded, but like you said, you have a heavier drone, it flies differently, there's more momentum, I guess. So if you have to suddenly stop a drone in mid-air, it's gonna be more of an effort than with a Cinewhoop or Tiny drone, of course.
Exactly. Now, I haven't personally got my hands on the THICC frame, but I know Nurk and Finke have, I think, both used that. And from what they've said, it actually handles. I mean, compared to like the X-Class drones that are out there, I hear it actually handles like a 5-inch. Troy Naquan of Quad Standard Labs, who I actually get most of my builds from, I think he's flown it too, and they all say the same thing, that they're impressed by the agility of it.
Yeah. Now, going back to safety and working on a set, I mean, I think most of our audience probably either haven't been to a set or may not know exactly what's involved. Can you tell us a little bit what it takes to prepare for a drone video shoot on a set where safety is important? And so how do you deal with that, and how do you deal with making sure that everybody else on the set understands what's going on and what the rules of the game are?
Yeah. So at this point, most of my on-set experience has been actually with the larger platforms like the Inspire 2 platforms and the X7 camera. So I'm still building up. I'm still showing directors, hey, look at this. It's called FPV. And they're like, whoa, what the heck? This is crazy. All right, I got ideas. So like right now in May 4, 2020, most of my on-set experience when it comes to bigger productions has been with the Inspire 2, but the safety protocol doesn't change.
It's the same, yeah.
So when you're on a set, there's a lot of feeling out, and you have to realize that the directors you're working with, this isn't new territory to most of these guys. They've been making films or they've been shooting documentaries for years, and there's a certain protocol that you go by where there's a reason why there's so many departments on set, and there's a reason why a lighting guy won't touch the audio and the audio won't touch the lighting guy, and there's this back and forth, and most people that are taking this as a hobby aren't used to that yet. So you really have to understand that you're there for a certain need, and sometimes you're better off just wait until somebody comes up to you and then says, hey, we're ready for the drone team, and then it's your time. But it usually starts off with a safety briefing. So you get there, you explore, you have that initial conversation with the director, you meet him, you figure out what he or she wants to do when it comes to the aerial side of things. A lot of it is managing expectations, to be honest with you, because some directors, they'll tell you, they'll be like, hey, this is the first time that we're using this platform. But here's my idea. All right, I want to be flying from inside the car, then I want the camera to come out of the car and then back into the car. And I'm like, well, I don't know what drone you're using, but that sounds awesome. I wish I had the ability to do that. So it's always about managing expectations. So they might say an idea, and then you look at it with your experience and say, how am I going to do that safely, first of all? Yeah. Not how am I going to pull that off? How am I going to pull that off safely, and is anybody at risk? So as soon as you roll that out, or you don't roll out a shot, you just modify it to be more safe. So they might say, hey, can you go through that tree gap? And with an Inspire 2, you're dealing with latency if you're looking at the screen, or you're dealing with line of sight. So with depth perception, the trees might look that they're in a certain place, but they might be off because of depth perception, right? So you might look at the director and say, hey, instead of a gap this big, where I know the Inspire 2 props will be coming within like inches, why don't we go for just a little bit bigger gap? And since we're filming on more of a cropped frame anyways, you're still going to get the effect that you're flying right through that tree gap with the Inspire 2. So it's like that communication, and always having confidence in yourself to be the safety kind of officer, because a lot of people get caught up when a director approaches you. They might be coming off a 12-hour day where it's been amazing, like they've been able to do everything they want, everything's been going perfectly smooth because they haven't had a lot of safety things. They come to you and say, Nick, I want you to fly through that thing, and all right, I want you to zoom around, and you're just like, all right, that's a great idea, but to do it safely, let's do it this way. And really, not standing your ground, I shouldn't say that, but it's like you have to have the understanding that if something goes wrong, you're the pilot in command, and it will come back to you no matter what. They're not going to talk to the director and say, hey, director, let me see your Part 107 license. They're going to be like, Nick Lang Media, let me see your license. Let's talk about this. What protocol did you go through? So they'll ask certain questions. They'll say, all right, did you have your safety briefing meeting? Did you call the local towers? Did you plan out a flight path? Did you make the right notifications? And as soon as you start saying no, that's when they're like, well, then you don't deserve to have this license because we have this license for a reason, and you're obviously not following the guidelines. So
it's interesting. So the actual drone flying, if you look at the bigger picture, is actually a small part of the entire operation, right? Because, for instance, the safety stuff is way more involved and complicated, it seems.
Yeah, and I'm glad you said that, because it's not like it's obviously it's the most fun part, but you hurry up and wait on set. Yeah. But really, what you have to do as a pilot that's working professionally in a commercial or a film world is you have to have a level of calmness, and you have to be able to deal with other hectic things, so your mind doesn't necessarily need to focus on, wait, which way am I? Is y'all left? Or that has to be second nature. So you have to be such a good pilot that you can handle everything else going around you, and you still have the ability to lock in and focus and fly the drone, because you'll have a director standing right here, and he'll be saying like, okay, try that. Oh man, we just missed it. Like, can you hurry up and get that, or like something like that. And you have to still be with the mindset of, I'm still flying an aircraft, and I need to do that as well as handle all the stress. Yep. So most of the guys that are in the industry are usually known as laid back. It's because we deal with so much stress on like a normal 15-second portion of our day that no one is used to, really. So everything else is like, really, you're going to complain about it being hot outside? Like, come on now, like that's not.
Well, it's interesting that you bring up stress, because one of your most recent videos, I think, was in the classic Automo or classic car mall, where you flew a drone past 1,400 classic cars. I mean, maybe you didn't have a director screaming in your ear or telling you what to do, but I mean, flying so close to so many classic cars, that must have been stressful. Can you tell us about how that happened and what was involved to make that video?
Yeah. So that's probably one of my favorite videos out there right now. Because of just the fact that I had a lot of moments during that project where I'm like, this is awesome. This is absolutely the coolest thing I've ever done. just being like a car fan. Well, not a huge car fan, but my dad's a car salesman. I was in the car. I worked at his lot for 8 years, and I enjoy classic cars, right? So like it was just a surreal moment, anyways. So that the reason that I got that entire job is actually I was at a Grand Prix race in a local town, and I was covering the Grand Prix race, which is a bunch of other older cars from the Mavic 2, and I was just getting shots and everything like that. And I approached Classic Automall. I saw their video playing, and the video that they had on there was obviously shot with the Inspire 1 or the Phantom, and it was inside, and there's only so many things you can do inside with the Phantom or Inspire. So I immediately recognized it. And I said, you know, like that video looks really, really cool. You know, was it filmed with a Phantom or anything like that? And he's like, yeah, but we want to change things. And I was like, oh, really? So I was like, well, if you're looking for kind of like a cinematic FPV video, let me show you what this looks like. So I showed him basically what an FPV fly-through that I was doing looked like. Yeah. And immediately you can just see like the wheels were turning. He's like, what? Yeah. He's like, I had no idea this was possible. And you know, it was like just a conversation that happened naturally. So once we started talking, they hired me to do a promo video, and you talk about good clients to work with that just let the creative do his thing and just take full control. Classic Automall gave me the keys to the place, and they said, Nick, just make a promo video, and like, you know, we trust your vision, we see your work, we love what you do, just do it for us. And I was like, that's the best way you can come across.
So you had all the freedom basically to figure out how you want to fly it, how you want to show the cars. Like that was all up to you basically to decide.
Yeah. Yep. And honestly, the rep that was there was the lot attendant. He was there just to help me out, open up doors and stuff like that. Yeah. But the first video I did was a full out promo video. So I took the ground camera, but I would say about 80 to 90% of the footage was aerial. So inside using the FPV camera, the FPV, the Geyser. At the time, and the Mavic 2 at the time. I didn't even fly the Inspire 2. Like, there's some certain projects that if the Mavic 2 is the best drone to use, and the quality's there, and you know it's going straight to web, why would I use something like the Inspire 2 that's way bigger, more risk, so that's why I went with that. But the promo video was done. It's a great piece. I love it. It's, like I said, mostly aerials, but inside. And then afterwards, I did that video that you're referencing almost as a thank you to them, because I saw the opportunity. It's funny too, because like I've been doing this since 2015. Like I said, I've been producing videos since 2010, 2009, and I still do free work. You know, like that's like that thing that people are always like, well, you should never work for free. I'm like, dude, first of all, get rid of your ego and just understand that if you're in a new market and you have a new product, you're gonna have to show people what you can do with it. Yeah. So it was one of those things. I was like, you know what? I saw the value of it. I told them, it's off the books. It's just completely me, you know, doing this. If you allow me to do it, I'd love to do it for you. Yeah. And that video went, you know, quote unquote viral. Car and Driver picked it up. It's got, I don't know what the total combined videos is, but one of them has like 500,000. I think my personal one has like 300,000. So it's getting up there, and I get messages specifically about that. Yeah. So that's been really, really cool. But that just came out of that.
Do you think that the whole coronavirus and social distancing has something to do with how this video goes viral? Because if you have to stay away from people, you can't go somewhere because it's probably a non-essential business, so it's probably shut down. With a video like this, it's almost like you're there. It's almost as if you're walking through those hallways and seeing all those cars, right?
Exactly. So like you know, it's everyone's affected in some way by COVID-19. Either your work is affected. Maybe you know somebody unfortunately that got sick. Or you're just like the most of us that are stuck inside wondering what their future is going to hold, right? Yep. So honestly, that's why I'm so excited about specifically the FPV portion of aerial cinematography, because what I'm doing in the videos that you see, there's not one point in that video where I even want to be in the video, right? I'm usually at a place that is safe for me. So like if I'm doing a real estate tour, you know, I'm going to do that in an area that I don't even necessarily have to be inside of the house. Because I don't want to be in the house, because it's about showing off the house. So those videos I do real estate are already like COVID-19 approved, where I don't have to be in any kind of contact with anybody. You're getting an entire contactless video production where I can really give you a top quality product for the real estate market and still be safe when it comes to social distancing. So PA right now, we're still in some essential businesses are still locked down, so I'm excited for everything to open up and then kind of help people that want to still show off their properties that way.
Now, the last thing I wanted to discuss with regards to that automall, I mean, it's a pretty large building that's spread out. You were flying through different rooms. Now, when you fly FPV drones, you have the analog system and you have a digital system, right? I mean, this one from DJI, they introduced this, what was it, last year? What did you use, and what did you have to deal with in terms of keeping control and having no latency over the drone as you're flying through all those different hallways past all these expensive cars, right? I mean, how did that work?
Nerves. You just calm your nerves. But like I said, I was already doing a project, so like it was weird. I was really comfortable with the entire area, but I was still flying a drone. So it's funny how I have another video that didn't get as many views, obviously, but it was I titled it the preview of the classic automall, and it's just in one of the rooms, and it's done with an analog system. And I quickly realized that the resolution was not there to see the antennas of all the cars, because all the cars were so random that, I mean, these are classic cars. They're not like the antennas in one place where you can just say, okay, the antenna is always going to be on the front right side of the car, right? So I actually did a video that doesn't have a lot of views, but it's a preview, and I put some like Henry Ford quote behind it, and it was just in one room. And I told myself, I'm not doing any other big tour with this until I get the digital system. So then I invested in the DJI digital system. I have the air unit, and then I have the goggles and the DJI controller. And that's a 336,000 square foot facility. But the way that it's laid out almost like in a star, right? So like there's a center hub, and then it branches out into different wings, right? So as a pilot, you're always thinking like, all right, where's the best place to launch from and to stand, right? So I was thinking about doing like a giveaway or like an I Spy thing to figure out which car I was sitting in.
You flew from you were sitting inside a vehicle as you were going down all those hallways. Nice.
So in the center of that video, in the center of the classic automall, there's a black BMW, and if you look closely, I'm in the front seat, flying it, because that was the centralized space to all the further points of the wing. So
and even though you were in a metal structure, that had no effect, no negative impact on how you were able to fly and the latency that you deal with, or?
So that was the first concern of mine. I was like, well, I experience analog multipathing all the time, and I'm like, I'm assuming it's going to happen the same way as digital, but there's something, and DJI has made a statement about this too. There's something that happens when you're inside an area and there's a lot of the frequencies bouncing around that it actually improves your signal and improves your video.
Really?
So I was, of course, like the way when it comes back to how I did it, I of course made sure that the first time I took off there, I didn't go above one car. I was about 3 feet off the ground, going in between the cars just to see could my signal reach all the way to the two furthest points I was going to go to, and what would that signal look like? And then, I was confident with that signal. I still had like 3 bars. Like, it was pretty impressive. And so when I got there, I made sure, I did the first safety path that made sure I could go into all the different rooms. But then what I quickly realized is the space was so big that I had to go at a speed that was fast because I was running out of battery by the time that I got to the end. So like I didn't go through technically every single room, but you get the idea of it. I took the best line, and that's the other thing too, that you don't just get up and you're a great FPV pilot and then you go on set and you're like, boom, it's going to translate over. You have to think still like, how am I going to show off this place? And like, I time out my turns in a specific way where I know that I'm starting my turn maybe in this room, but really I'm not going to finish it until the second room, because that's the whole fluid motion. Instead of going from point A to point B, you're really kind of putting an expo in it, and you're making that curve. But that was really the safety that I had concern of. And then of course, whenever you're going faster, you have to be more in control and you have to have your nerves calm. So I mean, I fly. Luckily, I'm obsessed with flying FPV drones. I mean, like the tiny whoop I fly, I bring it to every family event. I'm that guy, just like a lot of drone people in the family, that doesn't matter what
bring your drone.
You got the tiny whoop. You're making your home videos. You're having a blast, and like people know you for doing that. So like I'm used to flying through very, very small spaces. So it something just clicks. You do it enough, and like what did they say, 10,000 hours. Your muscle memory, you rely on that a lot. So it's weird because like I'm so comfortable with how the geyser flew at that point that I just had full confidence that I can know that if I line up a gap in this specific way, I'm going to go through it. It's just the confidence of you can do this kind of thing and not shake and bail out, because the last thing you want to do is bail out.
especially in an environment with all these cars around you. I mean, I see in the video a few times you fly through vehicles as well, and you know that can't be much space there because you're just going through a window opening, basically.
Yeah, so like the main video that went viral, I usually fly through a lot more things, but I was very specific to not fly through too many gaps just because, or through too many cars because I didn't want to risk. I mean, I'm not stupid. But some people look at that. I get messages all the time like, "Oh my God, dude, I can't believe you like flew through that. Like, my insurance wouldn't have covered all that stuff." So the one gap was the truck of a bed, and then the other one was like a bigger trolley kind of thing. And then each room, of course, you know, you're dealing with gaps right here because if you look up, there's a sprinkler system in there too. So I had to worry about that too because if I tripped one of those, I was still getting billed.
That'd be even worse than hitting a car.
Because all those cars were for, well, not all of them, but most of them were for sale too. So I wouldn't be just dealing with like, you know, the classic auto mall sending me a bill. I'd be dealing with a lot of angry car owners. So that was done with like a lot of confidence because you have to have that and you can't second think yourself. But then you also have to know your limitations. So like my limitations that day was like, Nick, don't open car doors. Don't go through a bunch of cars. The preview one that I did, I flew it through a Model T, I think it was, that's valued at like $100,000. And that alone, the nerves that I felt doing that, I was like, I don't want to go down that road anymore. Like, just because, like, you know, you're not gonna crash into a Model T and then go to AutoZone and pick up a replacement.
It doesn't work, right? So, I appreciate you sharing all this because I think a thing with experts is they make things look easy, right? So you're looking at this video, it's what, like maybe 3 minutes long or something, and you swoop and fly through this whole automall. It's like, oh, that's cool. I want to do that, or I can do that. But once you kind of break it out into different sections and all the details that are involved and all the logistics and the safety precautions, as you've been explaining, it's a lot more complicated than what you see in the 3-minute video. A question I have for you is for all the people who do see those videos and like, oh wow, I want to do this too. I want to get into this. I want to become a drone pilot. I want to make a career out of it. What kind of advice would you give them? Like, where do people start? And it might be different from flying a Phantom and an Inspire versus FPV, but what would you advise to people who want to get into this industry?
Yeah, so first, your passion's got to be there. It's not a get-rich-quick kind of industry. You have to really, really love flying or love filmmaking or love some aspect that you're going to be doing because you'll quickly learn that to build your name up, you're going to not make a lot of money at all. And even when you get to a point, you're still going week to week being like, all right, I hope I get a job coming up. So you have to constantly put out content. So if you don't absolutely love it, you might as well not get into it, to be honest with you, because you'll fizzle out and you'll waste money doing it. The one thing though is I know what flying drones has done for my life. Like it's kind of freaks me out sometimes to think what my life would even be like if I wasn't flying drones, because you know, like I enjoy filmmaking, but you know, corporate work gets repetitive and like it's the same thing here and there, and like I love documentary work, but you know, it becomes a job at one point. So you have to just be okay with accepting it as a career as well, and also understanding that once you turn it into a career, you might lose the hobby side a little bit. So I have FPV wings for hobby side and tiny whoops that I fly around and race and compete with. But really, if you have that passion, I 100% tell everyone to go after it, because I'm extremely happy with who I am and what I've been able to do and accomplish. And if I can have somebody else feel that, then the more the better, because like there's somebody now that's working 9-to-5 job just to buy a drone, and then they say, one day this is gonna be my full-time job, and just the gratification that you get when you go through all that struggle, and then you're like, okay, I can actually put a name to this. It's fantastic. So like it's totally worth all the BS that you have to go through, and people are gonna look at you and be like, do you really think this is gonna be a sustainable business? Like, oh, like really, like no one's gonna pay for this, or here, let me take this side of your company and stuff like that. So it's like, you have to deal with a lot of stuff, but if your passion's there, which you can't teach, then I'm confident that you'll be all right. But the freestyle guys that are doing it now, their skill set for flying through real houses for real estate, they actually kind of already have the hardest thing to teach is that muscle memory and the control of the drone. So if they focus more on how do I fly in a different way, maybe a little bit more with purpose and more to a client's liking, I guess would be a way of saying it, it's going to dumb down their skill, because you're not going to be doing crazy dives and flips and stuff like that. Your job is going to be to keep it at a certain altitude and fly very, very slow. And then that becomes the fun side of it. It's like, oh, how can I fly even slower? You know? So it's really just making the decision to do it. And you know, you can buy a Mavic on Amazon right now, Mavic 2 Pro. And like I said, I use that. And like people are like, oh, well, you know, like you can't do anything with the Mavic 2 Pro. And you got to put Alexa. And you can only do big drone work if you got the red. And like, dude, a lot of companies out there that are doing films, they're still using the Inspire 2 and the X7, the camera that I have, because it's such a versatile platform. And yeah, I mean, like all the hype about like, oh, well, I don't have the budget. Like I'm not gonna buy a red camera. Forget it, man. Just find your niche somewhere else and just go with it.
Yeah, but I think that's something that a lot of people still have the perception that you have to bring large, heavy, expensive looking equipment to a job site so that you'll be taken seriously, right? Whereas if you look at drones and how capable they have become, I mean, take the Mavic 2 Pro or take even the Mavic Air 2. They're small drones. They're relatively affordable. They're seen as hobbyist drones or toy drones almost, but at the same time, they're so capable that if you put them in the right hands, you can produce some serious professional footage.
Exactly, and that's the thing that like a lot of people, they'll sometimes hide behind their equipment, right? Yeah. So they'll be like, maybe they don't have the skill set, but they have the budget. So they'll think to themselves, man, I'm going to buy the best drone out there. I'm going to get this big octocopter. I'm going to show up on set with a big van with my logo, and they'll just look at me and be like, man, this guy must know what he's doing. Yeah. But it doesn't come across that way. Directors feel you out as soon as they meet you. There's a certain way that they're going to look at you and be like, is this guy somebody that can be directed, first of all, and is he going to take safety into mind, and how far can I push him, and stuff like that. So, like, it all comes out with the confidence and the dialogue, really, that you just teach with it. You get with experience. Yeah.
Now, if you buy a modern Mavic drone, those things almost fly themselves, right? I mean, you press a button, you launch them in the air, they have obstacle avoidance, they hover in place. I mean, they're like super easy to fly, basically. Right. Compare that to an FPV drone where you put the goggles on. I mean, that's a whole different ballgame. Like, how do people get into flying FPV drones? Because that's not as straightforward as opening up a DJI box.
No. Until DJI just, you know, saturates the market with some FPV option that like has zero latency and can fly itself. If that day comes, I'm sure it will. You know, it'll be a little easier. But right now, there's definitely a misunderstanding that if you can fly a Phantom, you can fly Mavic, you can fly Inspire, you can fly Heavy Lifter, you can automatically fly an FPV drone. And that's just not the same because none of the FPV drones, the ones that you want to use, are going to have what's called the altitude control. So like, you know, you have to fine tune your throttle just to stay in one place, and that just comes with muscle memory. Like I couldn't explain how my thumb is keeping my drone in one place. I mean, I probably could, but it's just doing it because I wanted to stay level. So I would suggest the best way to do it is a simulator, to be honest with you. The simulator is, even when I started FPV racing, I put a lot of time into the simulator, and I went to acro mode. So acro mode is basically that mode that takes out GPS, takes out stability. So as soon as you pitch forward, it's going to go until you move that stick back. If you let go of the sticks, it's still going to be pitched forward, and the momentum is going to take it that way. So that's the biggest thing that pilots need to get used to. And then once you master altitude hold, where you can keep your drone level, you just incorporate different moves, where you incorporate your yaw and your pitch at the same time, and you work on that real slow movement. So it's really just a different style of flying that you can't really get anywhere besides an FPV drone with zero latency.
Yeah, I think that's, I mean, you're controlling all the three dimensions of that drone, right? When you fly an FPV drone, and then also you have to control the way it turns and swoops through those turns. So it's a very different ballgame. So start with the simulators, what you say, hone your skills there, and then what? Start with a small FPV drone, or?
So the progression I usually tell people is simulator, and it's something that I get asked a lot, and I've actually found a real passion for teaching new pilots this. That's why, like, I tell people on Instagram, like, I'm an open book. Hit me up, and if I'm available, dude, I'm going to be available to talk, because I love it so much, and I love other people that can learn something and then do what I'm doing and just have a blast. So I started what's called Team Flight Control with a business partner of mine. So it's going to be focusing on teaching kids who are interested in flying drones the right way to do it. So I feel like if you follow a certain way, certain steps, I should say, you'll have a better chance of being successful and be safe about it. So the progression is usually simulator, and then Tiny Whoop. Now Tiny Whoop is a brand, of course, but it's also a community. So there's a lot of different options when it comes to the Tiny Whoop frame. Everyone knows Jesse Perkins, of course. I mean, that guy is, he is Tiny Whoop. You see the passion, you see the courses he makes, the community he's created that draws people to it. And like that is a community that I tell people, go on Facebook, join the Tiny Whoop Facebook community, because it's just a fun time. I mean, it's like everyone on there is just to help each other out, and we're racing little micro drones. So I do a lot of documentary work. I have about, I think, like 30 videos about FPV racing that I go to, and I document the races. And I got a few Tiny Whoop videos on there, and they're always my favorite because of the community, the fact that we're racing inside of bars, and like it's just hilarious.
It's cool stuff. And once you know how to fly those drones, you can move up and go to the bigger FPV drones because they operate basically the same way. You go Tiny Whoop, and then you would got something like an outdoor quad, and then when you take the propellers off and you go like 6S where you want to be doing high-speed chases, it's just a progression that you'll naturally get to if you follow the simulator, Tiny Whoop, outdoor drone, and then cinematography. Yeah, so that's the path for people to follow. If people want to check you out, like where on social media can they find you? Can you tell us the places where you are? Yeah, so you can find me on Facebook, Instagram, or my website. So on all the social platforms, it's Nick Lang Media. And on my website is www.nicklangmedia.com. So it's Nick Lang Media all across. Cool. I want to, just be available for people that are thinking about it, and the more the better. I have an approach that, I got some tips, of course, that I keep under the Nick Lang brand or whatever, but like it's just like stuff that I don't think about putting out there as much. But if people contact me and we have a talk, how do you do this, how do you do that, dude, I'm the first one to say like this is exactly how I do it. Because I see it as something that a lot more people should be doing. So, and then Team Flight Control, once that gets started, will be available for the education system. So kids that are interested in it, that want to start at their school, they want to start FPV racing, Team Flight Control for that. So it's teamflightcontrol.com. Cool. I'll make sure to put all the links to your social media in the description below. I want to thank you so much for the time and all your explanation. I mean, you have a lot of really interesting and really cool stories to share. So I think a lot of people will find this very interesting. Cool. So thank you so much for your time. Yeah, thanks for having me, Hi. Yeah, awesome. So for everybody else, if you are a commercial drone pilot and you want to share your story on DroneXL, then hit me up on social media or send me an email at hi@dronexl.co. Then we can set something up and do a similar interview similar to what we just done with Nick Lang. Nick, again, thank you so much for being on the show. It's been a pleasure talking to you, and I'll be checking out more videos from you. I think they're really amazing. So thank you so much. Cool. Yeah, definitely, man. Thanks for having me.